This is Conversations on Careers and Professional Life, a podcast from the Foster School of Business, MBA Career Management Office. I'm your host, Gregory Heller. On each episode, I talk with guests from faculty and staff to students, alumni, and business leaders about the skills and strategies that can help you design a professional career that you're happy with. On this episode, I speak with Nivedita Kumar from the Foster MBA class of 2022. We spoke at the end of the summer just as she was beginning her full-time role. Prior to getting her MBA at Foster, Nivi was a technical sales manager for Philips and then worked a variety of roles, culminating in program manager at Swiggy, a local delivery startup in India. In the summer of 2021, she interned with Amazon as a senior program manager, and now, in the summer of 2022, is working full-time at Microsoft as a product manager. Nivi, welcome to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life.
Thank you so much, Gregory. It feels so nice to be back chatting with you once again and not doing much different from a behavioral to a podcast. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're not going to practice any stories today, but I do want to hear a bit about your story. Why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about what you were doing right before coming to the MBA and why you decided to get the MBA, what it is that you wanted to do with it?
Sure. So my journey started off as a development manager with Philips back in India. And briefly prior to that, I was a software developer. And I love the overall concept of being in corporate strategy, selling products, understanding technicalities, being an engineer myself from an undergrad standpoint. But as I grew up the ladders with Philips, I realized I loved thriving in ambiguity and I was too comfortable. And that kind of got me to switch from a very comfortable corporate job to a budding startup back in India. And probably the biggest takeaway for me over there was how to lead small size teams, how to think about strategy, how to really get your consumers hooked to your product. And just to set some context, Swiggy happens to be India's leading food delivery startup. And it was really nice to kind of be a part of the journey, starting off with sales, moving on to marketing, program, product. So got a flavor of all sort of roles. And when pandemic hit, kind of got the leadership position to handle some really critical products and scaling those new initiative businesses. And when I thought to myself, I just realized I wanted to work on a global product that I could scale across that could really be helpful to the masses. And that honestly got me to pursue and apply to my MBA. It was pretty much that. It was just living the dream of working on a global product, wanting to really give the community back in some way or the other. And and Foster just seemed the best place at that point in time because it was a small program and everybody really invests on your success within the community and the program. So that was my biggest takeaway to come to pursue my MBA in the United States from India.
So you get here to Seattle, still pandemic still happening.
Yes.
And what were some of the ways that you researched the target companies that you wanted to intern at?
Right. Honestly, I was clueless. Let's start with that. So there were three major resources within Foster I would start off with. One was using the career management resource, talking to Stacy, you were my coach, Elaine, Sean, Naomi, Veronica, keeping myself updated on what were opportunities in the technology space, making sure we could get connected to the network. It could be alums, it could be anybody interesting in the contact that we found in their profiles was one way of doing it. Two was building that network not just with our class, but really understanding what all my peers' backgrounds were, what would how did they get through their professional career ladder, and talking to our then second year's class of 2021, seeking help from their internship the people or the network they had built was another way that I kind of looked into building my network. And third was making sure to set aside 3 hours every Friday purely to populate an Excel sheet that I built of the companies I wanted to work for in the product space and listing out contacts either through LinkedIn or suggestions that my friends or career management had provided me, and trying to get some time with them to just talk to them for about 30 minutes and scheduling coffee chats in this remote world was how I approached my journey when I started off my MBA.
How many of those coffee chats would you say you had in the fall of your first year?
Wow, I must have done about 35 to 42 coffee
Wow.
chats just in the first quarter.
Wow.
And that was taking 15 to 20 to 30 minutes, and some would just go up to 60 minutes because we would have a great connection and we just had so much to talk about. But yes, definitely in that range.
That's great. And so then you're applying to internships and you land the internship at Amazon and you worked at Amazon over the summer.
Yes.
And how was that experience? What was some of the highlights? What did you learn most from that experience, would you say?
The biggest takeaway from my Amazon experience was how customer obsessed the organization is and how they thrive in ambiguity. I was given a 40 million scale project on day one and just asked, and my manager just asked me to figure it out. It was a lot of responsibility and a lot of ambiguity, and those were the two things I really enjoyed working with, my consumers and ambiguity with Amazon. In addition to that, I think more than anything, it really gave me an essence of what program management looked like because in Amazon, and did I really want to pursue that in future? It gave me that clarity as well. And I knew it because I had done program, I'd done product back in the startup space. I didn't know how it would be in a global based organization. And it just gave me more clarity more than anything that I wanted to stick to product. So I think the internship was a good takeaway for me to just realize that, hey, I need to go back. I need to recruit full time. I need to get myself into the product management space because that's what I enjoyed the most. And I also did network within Amazon as well. So it just got the process much more easier if I wanted to navigate to a product and then eventually decide where I wanted to continue being as a product manager.
Okay, let's take one step back. So obviously, we glossed over everything from the 35 informational interviews to like landing the internship at Amazon. Now, that second quarter, winter quarter,
Yes.
what were some of the activities that you engaged in that most prepared you for the interviews that you went on, not only for Amazon, but for the other companies where you recruited?
Right. So the winter quarter is where we generally do a lot of marks and casing. So I think my biggest takeaway was making sure to schedule 2 practice sessions with career management every week. So I always had 2 sessions a week. And that was great. 2 was practicing with my peers, and that could be 2 forms, especially when you're in the product space. When you want to land yourself an internship, you just need to focus a lot on working on your stories with career management, building that skeleton and kind of conveying it to the person sitting on the other side of your monitor. But in addition to that, for roles that I was applying outside, the Foster portal required me to practice product casing. So I went with this portal called the Exponent, a great portal if you want to be in the product management or the technical product management space, because it just gives you a lot of clarity as to how you need to structure your responses. And overall, in addition to that, I think the consulting project was something I really took a lot from. And I
And
would always
that's the applied strategy
the
project in
applied
winter quarter.
strategy project. Yes, that's correct. And I think Sam was great because eventually, when I wanted to apply to more programs. I mean, more companies with to stick. I mean, to kind of look at working towards consulting with more products, projects, etc. It was a great starter for me in that space. So those were the three things I majorly did that fall. So
And that's Samantha Burr, who runs
Mhm.
the strategic consulting program at Foster, which
Yes,
includes applied strategy, independent
correct,
studies, and field study projects. Did you
correct.
do an independent study in your spring quarter?
I did. I in fact did it with the Seattle Kraken,
Oh, great.
and post that the next quarter again picked up a project with Google. So I did two projects after that
Oh,
as
so a lot of practice, not just with career management, but also on your own
well.
and with your classmates to get those
Yes,
stories dialed in.
yes,
So then, you go on a lot of interviews. I'm sure you interviewed with a lot of different companies for your internship.
yes.
You do the internship at Amazon. You decide, you really want to go into product.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to re-recruit. And so you spent the fall doing a lot of interviewing,
Yes.
but you didn't have an offer that you accepted in those fall months.
Oh, not
And
at all. I
right.
had to really struggle that out, to be honest. I didn't have an offer till the month of May. And August, which was the fall of 2021, I was working on a lot of my cover letters based on the roles I wanted to apply to, really networking with different levels of product managers across companies, and took a lot of help from the class of 2020 and class of 2021, because they were already in the space. They just started their career. They were going, I mean, some of them during the pandemic had a similar struggle. So it was great because practicing with them really changed my perspective of how I wanted to practice, prepare, made me much more confident. So, August, I would say I rather focused on building my cover letters, doing a couple of casing with a lot, building connects and networking with class of 2020, 2021, 2019, trying to really understand companies I wanted to apply to more than anything, because I started applying to it post that in January, February, etc.
Yeah. So
But
that's
it was,
sort of just to put a finer point on it. You did a
Mhm.
lot of networking with like the
Yes,
three classes that graduated before
yes,
you.
yes,
We always like to say that those folks have a lot of empathy
yes,
for the position that a current student is in because it was just a few years ago that
correct.
they were in that position. So, did you find that in addition to the empathy of being able to relate to the position that you were in, did you also find that they were able to provide a lot of value in terms of the connections and information that they
Mm-hmm.
were able to provide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, because they were in the space, they already had built their network, they were experiencing being product managers, they knew how to guide me at that point in time. So that was, I really got through getting good mentors in that program, to be honest, in that phase of the fall phase, I would call it, when I was really scouting for companies I wanted to apply to. And what roles I wanted to, specifically teams, because the good part about recruiting full time is you get to pick your team. You do not, you're not given an option of these other teams, but you get that opportunity. So, really understanding what was valuable, what I could associate with, what product I thought I would add in a lot of value. Those were intel and informational points they could help me with, and it was purely empathy because a lot of them went out of their way to help me, which I'm very truly grateful for the offers I landed.
And that's something that new students might not know off the bat is that when you're applying for internships,
Mm-hmm,
especially at the larger companies,
mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a general internship in a role. And then you're going to get slotted into a team. The team's going to
Correct.
pick you out of the pile.
That's
But when you're applying for full time
yes.
roles, you have a lot more control to direct your application to a particular team or
Correct.
product so you can leverage more of your past experience and your future interest in that process.
That's correct. That's definitely the biggest takeaway I had, and had I had an offer, return offer back from Amazon, I wouldn't have really explored the path. And this really pushed me to explore the path of really understanding what product I wanted to work on, what value I could add to it, what value I could add to a customer's life. So it was, yeah, so fall and winter did I go, and I did spend a lot of time in really understanding the essence of the role I wanted to be in. And I would definitely encourage all incoming students, even if they have internship converts, or even us, or the class of 2023, even if you have converts, please push yourself to still apply to full time opportunities, because you never know, there is that one pearl inside that oyster, and that might ideally be the job that you've always wanted. So, yeah, it's just push yourself and understand what's out there, and you never know what will surprise you out there.
Yeah, I have a friend who actually did find a pearl and an oyster, by the way, at a restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in addition to the informational interviews that you conducted and the conversations that you had and sort of the mentorship, if you will, that you had from some of these alums that went before you, were there other resources that you relied on to learn the space and hone in on a particular product space that you wanted to pursue?
Oh yeah. So I would honestly put that in three buckets. One would be a mentorship program, two would be books, and three would be podcasts. It's as simple as that. So, one, to start off with mentorship. The Foster mentorship program that I enrolled in, the mentor I was given, Ishita, was a great resource to us. Especially, she connected us to a lot of her product management network who really helped me to get my 5 roles I got in May and June. I would set up weekly calls with them, talk to them, understand what their leadership styles were, what were the challenges that they had while scaling products, and our conversation just went on from there. And it was very structured because you're still getting 30 minutes of a senior director's time, and it had to add value to both of you. In terms of books, I do have a couple of favorite books that I read, inspired by Marty, Cagan, the Lean Product Playbook, and Hooked. Kind of gave me a complete 360 view of how to build MVPs, how do you get feedback, how do you be customer obsessed, and just building engaging products, because essentially that's what I love doing. And it was just nice to stay updated on top of how these intellects had to talk about product management in general. There were definitely two podcasts, and I would listen to product school interviews that they had with product managers, which was a great resource because they would talk about different aspects of products and product strategy in itself. My favorite podcasts are Product Thinking by Melissa Perri. Kind of listen to it for 30 minutes every day. She's great. And the product experience, that's something I picked up after moving to United States. They launched in September 2020. So it's by Lily Smith and Randy Silver. It's on Spotify. And those are two product podcast resources I listen to.
And I'll put all of those in the show notes, which listeners can find at conversationsoncareers.com. So you don't have to frantically write those down. Those are some great recommendations. So now we're in September, October, November. You're going out on interviews, but you don't secure an offer. And then there's sort of the winter sets in, right?
Yeah.
What did it feel like going into the winter break, the break between autumn quarter and winter quarter, without having an offer in your pocket?
Yeah, I took a time off, to be honest. I went back home to India, spent some time with friends and family, came all rejuvenated for the war, like I would call it. No, just kidding. But I just took some time off to focus on myself, reading books, listening to podcasts, improving. As honestly, as a South Asian, the biggest problem most of us have is seeking for help. So even when you're networking, it's very difficult, especially for me, to go ahead and ask, hey, can you refer me to this role? Or hey, can you connect me to your recruiter, or etc. So really focusing on practicing those skills with Elaine was something that happened in during the winter, where She and I would just craft those emails, what I felt that I should write out to certain bunch of product managers, and they were across. They had it could be at a mid senior level, at a senior level, at a director level, and reaching out to those contacts and just having those chats about the projects I worked on and what I was working on, etc. So in this January, February, March, it was majorly focused on just reconnecting with those contacts I built and asking them for interesting roles that they had within the organization.
And when you did ask, what was the response that you got?
It was amazing. So that's again another takeaway, or probably a lesson I should have learned way before coming to the United States is please ask and seek for help, because you never know. People are extremely empathetic, and everybody has probably gone through that journey or phase in life. And all my jobs, honestly, that I've got through is through these referrals. I wouldn't have been able to do it without it. The Microsoft job that I landed was a referral through a class of 2020 and 2019. It was Gustava and Mallory. So that was great. My Amazon offer was basically the practice that I had put in with, again, two of my mentors from class of 2021, Parth and Sangeeta, and they literally would go out for roles that I had talked to them about that got me excited in Prime, AWS, etc. We would actually talk it through, and then they would refer me and we would practice. And that's pretty much how kind of I got the job through the referrals. It's honestly been seeking for help, and even with director level people, Ishita, my mentor, who Khalid had actually looked me into with, was great, because she had suggested another mentor totally outside the foster community, and she prepped me through for an entire month, and we worked on assignments together. She gave me product casing, her real time situations, and we worked on it together. And I would definitely credit Rohini for that, because a lot of my success also comes through that confidence that I built in the process of 6 months to get what I want.
And just to highlight, you've mentioned mentorship a few times. We have a fantastic mentor program at the Foster School with alums and people out in the community. So if students who are listening to this, look for the announcement about the mentor program. You can sign up. You'll get paired with a mentor for group mentorship. And then often students, meet one-on-one at times with those mentors as well. And it's a great way to understand what mentorship can really be like and to find more connection.
Correct. And I didn't do it in the first year, Gregory, to be honest, because I decided to take up leadership positions, so I did not. But I regret that. And I did learn that in my second year. So hands down, please subscribe to that program. It's one of the greatest mentorship space that you will be in.
So outside of academics, like applied strategy and the independent study projects, and outside of career management and the mock interviews and the practice and the mentorship, are there other extracurricular activities that you engaged in during your time in the program that you think really helped prepare you either for the application and interview process, the networking, et cetera, or the job that you're actually doing now, that you would say, hey, if you're a student coming in, you should really get involved in one of these activities?
For sure. I mean, I was actively invested in the marketing club, the technology club. I had first year positions in both of these, plus the women in business. And we had a lot of events that we did, but we would talk to each other about our previous experiences. We had multiple guests who would come and who would talk about their stories. Organizing them, getting them on board, having those conversations has been amazing. And I've definitely learned to deal with people in a very different way. And it's all about empathy. I think the amount of empathy that the foster community has shown me in the last 2 years is immense. And at this point, all I can do is return that back in every small way possible. Besides that, I also was the VP for International Affairs. So making sure getting people together to celebrate and those tough times of the pandemic and even post that was something I enjoyed. So yeah, we had a ball doing events with the EC, etc. So taking up
Yeah.
leadership positions really add value because leadership is key, and obviously we are taught about that in our product. That was the first thing we were taught. It's just about picking which ones you that closely you could associate with matters, and it mattered to me to be in these clubs and leadership positions. So that was out of networking, etc. This is the way I engage with my community, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed it thoroughly.
So that's the Foster Marketing Association, Women in Business,
Mm-hmm.
and the Tech Club. And
Oh,
the thing
yeah.
that people should know about, right? Foster has a lot of these clubs, and it is, as you said earlier on, it's a small program. So there's a lot of opportunity for leadership to engage in the broader community, bringing people to campus for events or virtually to campus for events, and networking and connecting with students in the year ahead of you or when you're a second year in the year behind you
Mhm.
through working in these clubs. And I know a lot of students find that to be very rewarding, and also
Yeah.
as a way to help build your network
Yeah.
where it's not as, I don't want to say transactional, because we don't ever really want networking to be
Yeah.
like transactional,
Yeah.
but when you're one-on-one reaching out to someone to say, hey, do you have 15 or 20 minutes
Hmm.
to grab coffee
Yeah.
or a Zoom call so I can ask you about your job? Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing. And it's another when you say, hey, do you have 45 minutes to attend this event and present your expertise
Yeah.
to my classmates?
Mhm.
And that puts you in a position where you're inviting someone to campus, you're engaging an alum or an outside expert, and it's not just like asking them for their time for yourself. So it's an interesting balance, and I think a lot of students find that pretty helpful.
Yeah. It does. I think it just pushes you to go outside your comfort zone and be out there. So that was my biggest takeaway in the whole process. It was a lot of fun.
We're recording this at the end of August in
Mhm.
2022.
Yes.
Orientation, program launch, pro dev launch is right around the corner for the class of 2024. When you think back to 23 months ago, September 2020, when you were just starting the program,
Right.
what are some of the things that really stand out for you as having had an enduring impact on your career search from pro dev launch or from the activities of very early in the program?
Well, for starters, I would just say make sure you build those bonds with your peers. It's the biggest value that you have. And this was something I really invested a lot of my time in for the last 2 years. And end of the day, it's my biggest support system today. Two is give back to the community at every point. And this was something that Foster's taught me. Make sure you give back to the community, even if it's as small as saying thank you for talking to me for those 20 minutes. And hey, this is the update of my life. As a product manager, this is pretty cool stuff I'm working on. Even those 3 sentences to contact you've built can really make a difference. And I think lastly, just, I mean, go with the flow, but Foster really is there for you. So do not stress. It could be stressful at times, but just smile through the process and you will land a great experience and a great job at the end of those 2 years. So yeah.
That's great. And when I think about all the meetings we had,
Yeah.
uh, I an indelible memory, right, is you came on and you were happy, you were smiling, you were appreciative of the time, and you put in the work. You improved from meeting to meeting. You were clearly putting
Yeah.
in the time in between those sessions as well, and it paid off. And now you're at Microsoft. Tell us just a little bit about the role that you're in right now.
Oh, it's an amazing role. I'm with the Nadmic 365 team, working on very cool product that takes care of CRM, so addresses support system in a very intelligent way, to put it in very simple language. But I'm working on building features. It's just 3 weeks into Microsoft, and it's an amazing place so far. Just learning a lot of it from the technical aspect, but I'll be very keen on working on artificial intelligence and ML-based products in the future that could address these issues. So I'm pretty excited about it for now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nivi, for spending some time to have this conversation on careers and professional life.
Thank you so much, Gregory. It was so nice to be here and chat with you once again.
Nivi and I talked about how important building her network was, both with classmates and alumni of the Foster MBA program. She shared how uncomfortable it was for her, at least at first, to ask for help when she was actively recruiting in the fall of her second year, but also how once she did, alumni and others were more than willing to help her. Whenever I speak with alumni and students of Foster's MBA program, I hear how important building their network and activating the network has been for their career. Thank you for listening to Conversations on Careers and Professional Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or classmate. Help others find the show by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Conversations on Careers and Professional Life is produced by me, Gregory Heller, with support from the Foster School of Business, Office of MBA Career Management. Learn more about the show, find show notes and past episodes, and get in touch with me at conversationsoncareers.com.